Everyone thinks they already know the answer to this one. The hybrid saves gas. The gas engine is simpler. The hybrid wins on fuel. The gas wins on reliability. And somewhere in the middle, they roughly break even. That's the conventional wisdom. That's what gets repeated on forums, in dealership showrooms, and in comment sections all over the internet. We ignored all of it. Instead, we put two Camrys through 300,000 miles of real driving and let the numbers tell the story. What we found didn't match what most people believe, not even close. And the vehicle that came out ahead at 300,000 miles wasn't the one that the internet consensus would have predicted. Why the Camry makes this test different. The Camry isn't the RAV4. It isn't the Prius. It sits in a unique position in Toyota's lineup as the best-selling car in America for decades. The vehicle that millions of regular people drive to work, raise families in, and expect to last for years without drama. And Toyota sells two completely different versions of this car under the same name. The gas Camry and the Camry Hybrid look nearly identical from the outside. They share the same body, the same interior, the same trim levels, but underneath, they are fundamentally different machines. The gas Camry runs on Toyota's 2.5-liter inline four-cylinder engine designated the A25AFKS, paired with an 8-speed automatic transmission. This engine features Toyota's D4S dual injection system, which combines both direct injection and port injection to reduce carbon buildup on the intake valves. It's one of the most advanced, naturally aspirated four-cylinder engines in a mainstream sedan, and it replaced the older 2AR engine in the current Camry generation. The Camry Hybrid uses the same basic 2.5-liter block, but in Atkinson cycle configuration, paired with two motor generators, a sealed lithium-ion battery pack mounted beneath the rear seat, and Toyota's electronically controlled continuously variable transmission, the ECVT. Unlike older Toyota hybrids that use nickel metal hydride battery packs, the current Camry Hybrid uses lithium-ion chemistry, which is lighter, more energy-dense, and capable of deeper charge and discharge cycles. Same car, two completely different engineering philosophies underneath the hood, and we drove both of them to 300,000 miles to find out which philosophy actually wins. The setup. Both vehicles were the same model year, both in XSE trim, both purchased new with fewer than 500 miles on the odometer. Both followed identical maintenance schedules throughout the entire test. Oil changes at the manufacturer recommended intervals using the same full synthetic 0W20 oil. Tire rotations every 5,000 miles. Fluid inspections and replacements at specified intervals. Air filter and cabin air filter changes on schedule. Nothing was deferred. Nothing was skipped. This was the cleanest possible comparison between the two powertrains, with every other variable held constant. Fuel economy. The numbers. Most people, quote, "The fuel economy gap between these two Camrys is real, and it is substantial. The gas Camry settled into a consistent real-world average of approximately 32 miles per gallon across mixed city and highway, driving over the full 300,000 miles. That is slightly above the EPA combined estimate, which reflects steady, disciplined driving without a lot of aggressive acceleration or heavy city traffic patterns. The Camry Hybrid averaged approximately 46 miles per gallon over the same distance and driving conditions. That is a 14 miles per gallon advantage, and it held up remarkably well throughout the entire test. Even past 200,000 miles, when the lithium-ion battery pack had experienced natural capacity reduction, the hybrid was still returning over 42 miles per gallon. Over 300,000 miles at an average fuel price of $3.50 per gallon, the gas Camry consumed approximately 9,375 gallons. The hybrid consumed approximately 6,522 gallons. That is a difference of 2,853 gallons. Multiply that by $3.50 and you get roughly $9,985 in fuel savings for the hybrid. Nearly $10,000 just in fuel over the life of the vehicle. The hybrid premium at purchase was approximately $3,500 over the equivalent gas trim. The hybrid paid back that premium in fuel savings somewhere around the 100,000-mile mark. Every mile after that was pure financial advantage for the hybrid. But fuel cost is only the beginning of this story. The first 100,000 miles, closer than you'd expect. Through the first 100,000 miles, both Camrys behaved almost identically in terms of mechanical reliability. Neither required anything beyond scheduled maintenance, no unplanned repairs, no warning lights, no concerning noises. Both vehicles delivered exactly what Toyota's reputation promises in the early years: quiet, reliable, drama-free transportation. The maintenance costs were virtually identical through this stretch. Both needed the same oil changes, tire rotations, and air filters. The hybrid required one additional service the gas car didn't: an inspection of the hybrid coolant system, which uses a separate coolant circuit to regulate the temperature of the power control unit and the two motor generators inside the ECVT. This inspection ran about $60 at a Toyota dealer and found nothing concerning. The gas Camry spark plug replacement came due at 60,000 miles. Toyota uses iridium-tipped spark plugs in the A25 AFKS engine, and replacement for all 4 cylinders ran about $180 at an independent shop. The hybrid's Atkinson cycle engine also uses spark plugs, and the replacement interval was the same, so that cost was equal. Total maintenance cost for both vehicles through 100,000 miles was nearly identical, within about $120 of each other. 100,000 to 200,000 miles. Where the stories diverge. This is where the test became genuinely interesting, and where the differences between these two powertrains began to show up in ways that data alone does not fully capture. The gas Camry's A25 AFKS engine develops a characteristic that Toyota service technicians recognize on high-mileage examples. The direct injection side of the dual injection system begins leaving carbon deposits on the intake valves over time. This happens because direct injection sprays fuel directly into the combustion chamber, bypassing the intake valves entirely. Without fuel washing over the backs of the intake valves on every cycle, oil vapor from the positive crankcase ventilation system builds up on the valve heads and hardens into carbon deposits. By 120,000 miles, the gas Camry's intake valve carbon deposits had progressed to a level that required professional walnut blasting, a procedure where crushed walnut shells are blasted into the intake ports to scrub the deposits off the intake valves while a vacuum system removes the debris. This service ran $450 at an independent shop. The hybrid's Atkinson cycle engine uses port injection as the primary fueling strategy in most operating conditions. Fuel sprays directly onto the intake valves during the intake stroke, keeping them clean in the same way engines worked before direct injection became common. At 120,000 miles, an inspection of the hybrid's intake valves showed minimal deposits, no walnut blasting required. This difference matters enormously over time. Intake valve carbon deposits on a direct injection engine restrict airflow, reduce combustion efficiency, cause rough idle behavior, and eventually trigger misfires if left untreated. The hybrid's port injection advantage kept its intake valves cleaner throughout the entire test. At 145,000 miles, the gas Camry's water pump, the engine-driven mechanical component, bolted to the front of the engine that circulates coolant through the cylinder head and radiator, began showing signs of early bearing wear. The weep hole on the underside of the water pump housing showed a faint coolant trail, indicating the internal shaft seal was beginning to fail. Replacement of the mechanical water pump, including labor, ran $420. The hybrid does not use a conventional engine-driven water pump in the same way. It uses a combination of a belt-driven water pump for the engine circuit and an electric auxiliary pump for the hybrid system's power control unit cooling circuit. The electric auxiliary pump can be replaced independently without opening the engine. The hybrid's cooling system showed no issues at this mileage. At 165,000 miles, the gas Camry's automatic transmission valve body required cleaning and recalibration due to mild shift hesitation during cold morning startups. The 8-speed automatic transmission uses a complex hydraulic valve body with numerous solenoids and passages that regulate fluid pressure and control shift timing. Over time, varnish deposits from degraded transmission fluid can affect solenoid response. The service, which included a transmission flush and valve body cleaning, cost $340. The hybrid's ECVT has no traditional valve body in the same sense. It has no multiple gear ratios to shift between. The ECVT uses a power split device and 2 motor generators to vary the effective drive ratio continuously and electronically. There are no shift solenoids to gunk up, no shift points to recalibrate. The hybrid's ECVT fluid was changed at scheduled intervals and showed no issues. The brake system, the hybrid's unexpected complication. Just as we found with the RAV4 hybrid, the Camry hybrid's regenerative braking system created a specific problem that gas Camry owners never deal with. Regenerative braking means the front motor generator acts as a generator during deceleration, converting kinetic energy back into electricity and storing it in the lithium-ion battery pack under the rear seat. This recovers energy that would otherwise be wasted as heat through the brake pads. It is one of the key reasons hybrids achieve such dramatically better fuel economy in city driving where frequent braking occurs. But the physical brake rotors, the large cast iron discs at all 4 wheels that the hydraulic brake calipers clamp onto during hard stops, do not see enough use to stay clean and corrosion-free. By 90,000 miles, the rear brake rotors on the Camry hybrid had developed significant surface rust and scoring that could not be remedied by driving alone. The rear brake calipers, which rarely apply full hydraulic pressure because the regenerative system handles most of the braking load, were also showing signs of sticking from inactivity. The rear rotors and calipers required replacement at 97,000 miles. That service cost $680. The gas Camry's brake system behaved normally throughout the test. Front brake pads replaced at 55,000 miles and 140,000 miles. Rear brake pads at 70,000 and 180,000 miles. No rotor or caliper issues. Total brake system cost for the gas Camry through 300,000 miles, approximately $980. Total brake system cost for the hybrid through 300,000 miles, approximately $1,650. The hybrid's regenerative braking saves fuel with every stop, but the reduced use of physical brakes creates its own long-term cost. The hybrid battery, the real story. Past 200,000 miles, the lithium-ion battery pack in the Camry hybrid is located beneath the rear seat cushion, taking up the space between the front and rear seat bases, without intruding into the trunk. The hybrid battery uses a sealed, cooled pack design that manages cell temperature using the cabin air conditioning system. At 150,000 miles, hybrid system diagnostics showed the lithium-ion battery pack operating at approximately 88% of original capacity. Fuel economy had declined slightly from the early average, but remained well above what the gas Camry was achieving. At 200,000 miles, the battery was at approximately 82% capacity. Fuel economy had settled around 43 miles per gallon. At 250,000 miles, one of the battery monitoring modules, the component inside the battery pack that tracks the state of charge and temperature of each individual cell, triggered a warning. A diagnostic scan identified one cell group showing elevated internal resistance. Toyota dealers and independent hybrid specialists have the equipment to identify and replace individual battery modules within the pack rather than replacing the entire unit. A single module replacement cost $890 including labor. At 280,000 miles, the inverter assembly, the large component mounted in the engine compartment that converts direct current from the battery pack into alternating current for the motor generators, began showing intermittent efficiency warnings. The inverter is essentially the brain of the hybrid electric system. It controls the flow of power between the battery, the front motor generator, and the rear of the ECVT. Replacement of the inverter assembly cost $1,850 at an independent hybrid specialist. This is one of the most expensive single repairs on any hybrid vehicle and represents a genuine long-term ownership risk for high-mileage hybrid buyers. By comparison, the gas Camry at 280,000 miles had just replaced its front engine mount, the rubber and metal bracket that connects the engine block to the front subframe and absorbs vibration, for $280. Engine condition at 300,000 miles. The most surprising finding. Both engines were compression tested at 300,000 miles. This test measures the pressure inside each cylinder during the compression stroke and reveals the condition of the piston rings, cylinder walls, and valves. Healthy engines show consistent high compression across all cylinders. The gas Camry's A25A FKS engine showed compression readings of 168, 165, 167, and 164 pounds per square inch across the 4 cylinders. That's excellent for any engine at 300,000 miles, and it reflects the quality of Toyota's engineering and the benefit of consistent synthetic oil changes throughout the test. The hybrid's Atkinson cycle engine showed compression readings of 172, 174, 171, and 173 pounds per square inch, higher than the gas engine. Measurably, objectively better internal condition at 300,000 miles. The reason comes back to load. The Atkinson cycle engine in the hybrid operates at consistently lower average loads than the gas engine because it shares the workload with 2 electric motor generators. It runs on the Atkinson cycle, which leaves the intake valve open longer than normal during the compression stroke, reducing pumping losses and the mechanical stress on the pistons and connecting rods. It runs at lower average temperatures. It doesn't have to work as hard to move the car in everyday driving conditions. Lower consistent load, lower consistent temperature, better internal condition at 300,000 miles. The hybrid's engine is outlasting the gas engine internally, even though it comes wrapped in a more complex overall system. Total cost of ownership, the final accounting. Here's the complete picture across 300,000 miles. Fuel costs. Gas Camry, $32,812. Hybrid, $22,827. Hybrid Advantage, $9,985. Maintenance costs: gas, Camry $7,200, hybrid $9,600, gas Advantage $2,400. Unplanned repairs: gas Camry $1,490, hybrid $4,180, gas Advantage $2,690. Total hybrid Advantage at 300,000 miles, approximately $4,895. The hybrid didn't win by the massive margin the fuel numbers alone would suggest. The complex hybrid-specific components, particularly the inverter replacement and the battery module service, significantly eroded the fuel savings advantage. The brake system costs added up. The hybrid-specific coolant and ECVT fluid services cost more than equivalent gas car services, but the hybrid still won by nearly $5,000 over the full distance, and with an engine in measurably better internal condition at the finish line. The resale picture adds another dimension. Comparable Camry hybrids with 300,000 miles on the odometer command roughly $2,500 to $3,500 more than equivalent gas Camrys in the used market, assuming service records and functioning hybrid systems. The hybrid's documented durability has market value. What this actually means: if you are buying a Camry and planning to keep it past 150,000 miles, the hybrid wins the financial argument. But it wins by a narrower margin than most people expect, and it requires a different kind of attention than a gas car. You need to find a mechanic who understands hybrid systems. You need to budget for the possibility of an inverter or battery module repair in the high mileage years. You need to stay on top of brake rotor condition even when your pads seem fine. The gas Camry is simpler. Any mechanic in America can work on it. Its failure modes are predictable and inexpensive. Past 100,000 miles, it develops known issues like intake valve carbon deposits that are manageable with proper maintenance. It does not carry any hybrid-specific surprises. But at 300,000 miles, the hybrid's engine is in better condition. The hybrid has saved more money overall, and the hybrid's powertrain philosophy, using electric motors to share the load and reduce mechanical stress on the combustion engine, has proven itself in the one test that matters most: the long run. At 300,000 miles, we expected the gas Camry to be the reliable, cost-effective choice. We expected the hybrid to win on fuel and lose on complexity. What we actually found was an engine in better shape, a total cost advantage that survived despite expensive hybrid-specific repairs, and a vehicle that defied what conventional wisdom said it would do. The winner shocked us, and maybe it shocks you too. If you want to see what maintenance schedule actually keeps a Camry alive past 250,000 miles, watch the next video. It covers the exact intervals that make the difference between a Camry that quits and one that keeps going.